Guys, Roger Deakins has completely changed how I think about lenses. I was watching his podcast, Team Deakins. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know there was a podcast where he talks with his wife with a guest just about filmmaking. I didn't know this was a thing. So I was like, man, I've got to check this out, see what I can learn. And he was having a chat with a cinematographer and he was talking about how he likes really clean lenses, really like perfect lenses in a way. Um, Not lenses that flare too easily. And I found it super interesting because when I hear about lenses like that, lenses that don't flare too easily, they're super sharp, all of this stuff, they're perfect, whatever. In the back of my head, I'm like, that lens sounds boring. That lens sounds boring. Like I'm more interested in the lenses that have a little bit of character, the vintage lenses and stuff like that. But use those lenses with a really nice sensor. But looking at Roger Deakins' films and hearing his perspective on why like he likes lenses that are perfect. So when we say obviously perfect subjective, but as in sharp lenses, lenses that will be sharp even if they're wide open. Like I was saying, lenses that don't flare easily, that just give a clean, crystal clean image. I would say not perfect, but clean lenses is the term. Like clean, not, you know, for lack of a better term, but you guys know what I mean, like dirty lenses or lenses that have a bit of haze, softness to them, detuning character, but just distortion maybe, but lenses that look perfect. And it makes sense because I think Roger Deakins he cares a lot about the story, and in order to be engrossed in the story, you have to believe the story is real and realistic. And often his lighting is quite realistic or realistic to the location the character's in. So even if the scenario isn't realistic, the lighting looks believable, like real. Do you know what I mean? So even in Blade Runner, you know, the sequel, even though a lot of that isn't realistic stuff, the lighting looks realistic in that setting. If that setting was a real setting, the lighting would look like that. Do you know what I mean? And because his films look so real, it does draw you in, and it does. I mean, I can imagine. I'm just thinking of a film I really like that he shot called Sicario, and that film looks so real, and it draws you in such a good way. And I can imagine if there was flares all over the shots, that it would kind of distract you a little bit because the story doesn't need all those flares. Not saying that flares are wrong. I like flares. Like the first camera I ever had some crazy flares with it, and it had a fixed lens, and I learnt the camera quite well, and I was able to predictably get the sun in the right place to give it the flares that I want. Uh, s- it was beautiful, and it helped enhance some stories I was telling with photos. But for what Roger Deakins does, I can imagine it being a bit distracting if you're aiming for realism. Not that flares are unrealistic, but it's not like our eyeballs flare. Do you know what I mean? So having super clean lenses that don't flare easily allows you to have images that look like you're there in the room. And I'm like, that's a crazy way of thinking about it in a good way. I just never would have thought of that. Um, you know? Like, say if somebody was like, I'm gonna give you a set of lenses. You can buy any lens you want, Cook S4s, super speeds, whatever you want. I'm probably gonna pick the lens. I'm probably gonna pick the Cooks. To be honest with you, I'm probably just gonna pick the Cooks. But Cooks aside, I'm probably gonna be picking some vintage type lenses because I like the thought of having realistic images that aren't too sharp, like not crazy sharp. They're not like you know. Do you know what I mean? You guys know what I mean. But lenses that look realistic are good because it gives you a level playing field, a blank canvas that you can paint on and create something on that feels immersive. A lot of Roger Deakins stuff, it feels like it's immersive to me because it feels real. It doesn't feel like he's in the studio. There's loads of lights. It feels real, like very natural. And having lenses that help with the realism makes sense. Do you, guys, do you know where I'm coming from? To you guys who might be cinematographers, it might be obvious stuff to you, but I'm really into vintage glass. Like honestly, I'm really into that, and I've always considered like very clean lenses, like the one I've got now on this camera, to be kind of boring. I kind of just use it because it's practical. Do you know what I mean? But I'm like, it's boring. But now I'm thinking, nah, it's a tool. Lenses that are sharp and realistic are a tool to let us create realistic images um, that are believable and can allow people to even forget that they're watching the film and just be, you know, connected to the story. So it's opened my eyes. Um, it's opened my eyes a lot. I just changed the way I think about lenses. If I had the choice of lenses to rent for a project, and I had the luxury of doing camera tests, I had the luxury of having a decent budget, so I could pick literally whatever I wanted. And obviously we've got an AC as well, so um, it's not like I have to pick lenses that are easy for a one man band. If I could literally pick whatever I want, I would pick lenses that suit the story, but um, now but naturally I would look for characteristics in the lens that suit the story and potentially ignore the lenses that are just clean, like flat but in a good way. But I can't overlook those lenses because they give you, a blank canvas to paint with, and sometimes that's what you want. There is a lot of value in having lenses that are sharp, wide open as well. That is valuable. So yeah, it's changed the way I think about lenses. Um, and I just thought I'd share that, man. You guys probably like vintage glass like me on YouTube. A lot of us talk about vintage glass because um, you can get really nice lenses cheap, but like clean lenses are good as well. If you are a because clean lenses are good as well because you can make your shot interesting in other ways with lighting, set design, acting, a good story. Do you know what I mean? Um, One thing they said in the podcast that was insane. They said, if the lens is what makes your shot interesting, the shot is boring. If your shot is only interesting because of the lens you used, the shot is boring. That just opened my eyes so much. And yeah, I was like, of course, man. Like I've seen shots that seem simple in theory, but because of the story behind the shot and there's so much layers there, the shot is so captivating because of the story behind it. I may do a video on that later, but guys, yeah. Roger Deakins completely changed the way I think about lenses. What do you guys think? Are you guys like me into the more softer, dreamy look? And you kind of not into the sharper lenses. Um, I'm different now. I don't sharp. Clean lenses are good, and softer lenses are good. It just depends on what I'm going for. But what I don't want to do is pick shots that distract from the story or what I'm trying to portray, and that there's more to a shot than just a lens. Do you know what I mean? So I found that super, super useful and interesting.